What About Vietnam? A podcast with Carrie Newsom. The series where Carrie talks with travellers about their experiences and adventures. Find out more about Vietnam from the people who have actually been there.
What about Vietnam?
Whether it's adventure, exploring the culture and cuisine, shopping, or just soaking up the sun. Let Carrie and her travellers pave the way for a magical holiday in Vietnam.
What about Vietnam?
Xin chào and welcome to What About Vietnam? Look, when someone tells you they think Vietnam has put a string around their heart and brings them coming back for more year after year, you know you have to have them on the show. That's just it. Have you ever heard also that saying, you can feel the love or you should listen to your heart? Both those sayings go so directly to my guest today when she talks about her love and her genuine knowledge of Vietnamese cuisine and the Vietnamese people. Monika Czerveniak is my guest today, and as an enthusiastic traveller of Southeast Asia, she has worked in the hospitality industry for many years. As a consultant, she's a food blogger and she runs Chowdown Vietnam Food Tours. And in her spare time, she is the face and creator behind fearless cooking classes and workshops in Hoi An, Vietnam, Vancouver, BC, Canada, where we're talking to her today. And, you know, she pretty much goes wherever her taste buds will let her. Being born and raised in Austria to a family of restaurateurs, Monika speaks of the importance of fresh food ingredients that burst with simple flavours and yet delight the palate. The smells and excitement of growing up in a restaurant inspired her further education and training in Austria and to her broader travels throughout Europe and Asia. She tells me a few years ago she fell completely in love with Vietnam's magical culture and people while crisscrossing the country several times and indulging in their amazingly fresh and healthy cuisine. Finally setting in Hoi An for 8 years, her beloved tours and experiences of food in Vietnam will not only open your ears, hearts and imagination to the Vietnamese food you can experience during your stay, but I'm betting it may be the subject that you talk most about when you get home. So let's jump in and hear what this fun-loving, fearless chef has to tell us about Vietnamese food and what you can expect on your visit. Monika, it's great to have you on the show. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
It's absolutely delightful to have you on. We've got a lot to get through. So I'm going to start by something I've been meaning to ask you when we began chatting was what inspired you to visit Vietnam that very first time?
Well, that's very simple. In 1992, a movie came out called Indochine. And in that movie was Catherine Deneuve. And I was crazy about this woman. She was beautiful. I mean, she still is today. Anyway, the movie had really touched me. Not only her herself as an actor, but the whole thing about the story of Vietnam or Indochine and the French and so on and so forth. So it really inspired me all these years that's where I want to go one day. So, and that's what happened. I was working in Beijing and Singapore, and I always had to leave for about 40 after 30 days of working there, I had to leave and go somewhere and then come back after a week with a visa requirement. And so I've been everywhere except Vietnam, and it never happened. So after I retired, I finally did go to Vietnam for 5 weeks, and I traveled the entire country, and I totally fell in love completely.
And thus was Chowdown born.
Chowdown came a little later, but yes, through my travels and through my interest and my passion, which is food, it just people said, well, why don't you do a food tour of Vietnam? So that Chowdown was born. And so when I lived in Vietnam for that period of time.
Okay. And I think I think we said, you'd been there about 8 years. So that's quite a long time to get your head around Vietnam.
Yes, and I still don't know everything.
No, it's a ever-changing landscape, that is for sure. So before we get tangled up in too much of that, we've got some stories to cover. I don't want to get caught up in noodles and sticky rice just yet. But look, try if you can to just give us a little bit of history about the influences that make Vietnamese cuisine quite unique amongst other Asian cuisines. Sometimes it gets kind of put in the Asian food general bucket, and you and I both agree that's not the case. But talk to us, if you can, just a little bit about what the influences are that make, Vietnamese food so special, so unique.
Well, I think I need to start with a little bit of history of the occupation of Vietnam. They have been occupied for over 1,000 of years by the Chinese, the Japanese, the French, and even the British were there for about a year. So they had a lot of influences coming to them. And after the war, or I would say more like in the 20th century, their cuisine has sort of come about and changed completely because of the French influence. The French, when they occupied, they were almost, 70 years in Vietnam. When they occupied Vietnam, they created beautiful buildings, streets and sidewalks and beautiful houses. And they brought their cuisine. They brought the pot-au-feu, which is a chicken soup with vegetables in France. They brought the pâté. They brought the breads, the baguettes, and all these things they brought, pâté. And what happened was Vietnamese sort of adapted it to their style, and they created something out of this. So this is why they have fabulous bread. This is why they have amazing coffee, amazing noodles and rice, because they had nothing, especially after the war. There was not much rice. So in the south, there was a lot of rice paddies coming up in order to feed the country. So as it is of today, it has really been influenced by all these different cultures, but especially the North. The North has very much been influenced by the Chinese for over these years. So the cuisine in the North and the taste is a little bit different than from the South. So there's quite a difference in that. Because of agricultural ways in the North, there's the longer winters, it's colder there, so they have different kinds of, they have more wheat, they didn't have much rice, and so they're more into the noodles, whereas the South is doing the rice because they have plenty of it. And they have lots of fruits and vegetables and herbs, and they've grown all that in the South. So due to that, because of the weather as well, the South is always hot and it's always humid. And so things are going different, so everything tastes a little bit different. And it's almost like two cultures, but doing the same thing.
Yeah, and it's something that I learnt very early on in my trips back and forth, was that I try to get one dish in Saigon and then I'd go to order the same dish in Hanoi, and either A, I couldn't get it, or B, it just tasted totally different. And I thought, now, what have I missed here? Can you explain?
Well, it is because of the Chinese influence. So they're more into, as I said, soy sauce than into fish sauce. Because in the South, they're making the fish sauce, okay? So that has the Chinese influence is very strong there. Even you don't mention that word to the Vietnamese.
Yes.
It is their cuisine. So they're very proud of that. But I think, and I know that this is their main concern or their main difference that the weather and what they're growing. That's what it is. So in the north, they had more pork and chicken, and they were more proteins, basically, and not as many vegetables and not as many fresh fruits as the south has. So it's because of that. Also, they created basically their own cuisine. That's what happens, right? If you have a bunja, for instance, which is a national dish in Hanoi, which you must have, if you have it in Hanoi, it will completely taste different in the south. It's not even doesn't even look like it sometimes. That's the bunja that you had in the north. So, and that's pretty well with whether it's spring rolls or just noodles or whatever it is. It's all a little bit different. And also in the north, they don't serve their food spicy. You will get spicy condiments that you use yourself, but they don't. You put it yourself into the soups or into your things, but they're not making the dish spicy. Whereas in the south, you get a little bit more oomph. But what is happening with the food is there's an incredible harmony about flavors. It's very important. It's like the 4 or 5 senses of cooking. It's sweet, sour, pungent, and salty. So, and they also have the umami flavor because of the fish sauce. So, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And it makes sense to me when I did some street food tours, and certainly also when I did some cooking classes, to just see the additives of when you mentioned, I think you said sweet, sour, and punchy, which is chili and things like that. Yeah. But the amount of sugar that goes in some and the amount of salt and the amount of chili does vary quite dramatically in each area. And I mean, to me, that kind of adds some of the excitement about if you let your taste buds take you to various locations, you don't actually, it's not same. You're going to get something a little bit slightly different with their local spin on it, for want of a better word. I want to talk a little bit about street food, and I want to do that because it comes up a lot. And some people, I think, have a little bit of a reservation about eating street food. I mean, I've been a fairly game traveller, I suppose. So I will, no matter what country, if they're serving something that's cooked and that smell and that aroma is drawing me in, I'm there and I'm buying that shish kebab or that sticker or that, something to try, much to the amazement of who I'm traveling with, going, what are you doing that for? You don't know what's in that, and that could be this and that could be that. Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about street food in Vietnam, because to me, they are one-on-one.
The first thing I would like to suggest to any visitor to Vietnam, take a food tour. Don't be cheap. Get a food tour, because you'll learn a tremendous amount and your eyes will be open. And the guide, they all speak really well English, and they know everything and they know where to go. I highly suggest that. Walk around the first few days and see what's going on, but your curiosity will get the better of it, because you see food everywhere and you're just in awe. First it's a white blob and you don't know what it is, and it's some kind of noodle, and then 3 minutes later there's some fabulous things in there, and there's always fried shallots in it, and with 1 second you have this amazing noodle dish that you had no idea a minute ago it wasn't there, and now it's there, and now you're eating it, and the flavors and the taste of it and the freshness of it. So that's what needs to be seen and needs to be experienced, right? But the most important thing is, yes, there's a bit of a problem. I mean, food safety, we're not in North America. We're not in Australia. When you go to Asia, you have to have certain there's got to be a little bit resistance in your stomach to what you eat. Mind you, you can get food safety problem. Some in the best hotels, it can happen. It doesn't
Absolutely.
matter. So when you see what's one is my philosophy, I always go where there are people. So the more people are on the street in that place, or around it, then I'm pretty safe. It's fast. Well, I know the pork's been out all day, but it's it's not it's unheard of in our country that it what you have this out on the counter. So you need to know where to go and what to do. The thing is about street food is, and when you watch this, and I've watched it for many, many times, and I love watching it, is when you go to the markets and you see all these little shops and these little counters, and there is not much food around. The food comes constantly fresh. There's fresh chicken coming. They just killed it around the corner. There's fresh pate coming, and it's just everything is fresh and it's coming to you with these guys on the motorbike. And you got all the chicken hanging off, and literally they just killed them 5 minutes ago. And you get the freshest of the freshest, and you get the fresh prawns, or maybe the dried ones, and they're safer anyway. So there's a lot to watch. But I think you just have to let go and try everything. If you don't go to Vietnam to experience the food, I would say don't waste your time to go there. Because food is everything,
It is. And I think there's some lovely characters that come with that, and some experiences, like the people or the vendors that are selling it you can kind of strike up some kind of communication with them. The stories around sitting on little red chairs, they absolutely fascinated me when I thought, my God, this country has just had a bulk sale in red chairs. Is there a story behind the red chairs? Do we know even where they came from?
Well, I always make up that story that the French left a little chair from the kids playing or something, and then they saw that, and when they open up the shops, there's not much room, and they want to get as many people into their little shop. So red chairs are perfect, right? They're almost feelings, but it's perfect. And
I always feel like I'm playing house, like I'm a 10-year-old again.
That's it, that's it. It's like, I remember the first time I was taking a hike up in Sapa in the northern parts, and we had this fabulous tour guide, this woman with a baby on the back, and they hike with you for, 6-7 hours a day. And at the end of the tour, she said, I would like to invite you to my house. And it wasn't really a house. It was a little, contraption, a shed kind of thing with, you could look through the walls, and it was like 2x4s kind of put together. And she said, sit down, and then I'm making you some dinner. And there she is on the floor chopping up garlic. She has a cutting board there, and she's kneeling on the floor, as they do, and they're chopping up the meat and the ingredients, and then half an hour later we had this amazing soup. It's I will never forget that, and the characters and how much they put in to show you how much they love their country is unbelievable, and they will do anything for you to love it as well.
Yes,
so,
I agree. I think, I purposely did cooking classes and took food tours because I think the best way to get to know a country is definitely through their food.
Absolutely.
And as you say, they are very proud of their food and the cuisine, the spices, everything that they put into it. They do it with such love that, you feel like you are part of their family almost when they are serving a dish, which is absolutely just delightful. But tell us, like, you run Chowdown tours, which is a fabulous concept, and I know very successful. Talk to us a little bit about some of the experiences along those tours with people, because obviously people listening to us are saying, oh, gee, is that me or not? And, people have expectations or some preconceived ideas. So talk to us a little bit about some of the experiences that you've enjoyed with people on your tours.
Well, first I want to say there's no tour ever the same. Every tour I do is a little bit different. So different areas, different food, different things that we do, mainly because I have to say I'm very selfish. I like to be excited about things that I do. So I don't like doing the same thing all over again. So during my tours, I mean, I will take people who always start in Hanoi because that's where you need to start, it's my opinion, in order to get to know Vietnam, to see the difference and everything else, and see how people are. But we usually start in Hanoi. We went up to Sapa before. We're adding Phong Nha, which we make our way. We take the train, going to Phong Nha. And then last time, my last tour in Vietnam was 2 years ago, and I've taken 16 people on the Ho Chi Minh Trail for 5 days. We had on a motorbike. So everybody was sitting on the back of a motorbike, and some of us was driving our own motorbikes. But it was an amazing tour. And to this day, and this has been 2 years now, people are still in touch with me. That was the best trip they've ever had in their whole life. So seeing Vietnam in a different way, different areas, it's just amazing. So then we're going down to Hanoi, to Hoi An, which is where I resided. It's the most beautiful part of all of Vietnam, in my way. Beautiful beaches, and so there we do bike rides. We find out. I show people how rice is cultivated, what they're doing with rice. If we're in April, then in April or October, we'll be watching rice harvest and how they're processing the rice and what's involved, and actually showing them the real hard work that's involved to make 5 cents on a bowl of rice in their life and to feed the family. We also go and do cooking classes. I do 2-3 day cooking classes sometimes, where it's not only Vietnamese, but it's also I'm very, very much into fresh food and also not wasting food. So this is where fearless cooking comes out of Chowdown. So and that's what I'm continuing at the moment here in Canada, because we're kind of stuck.
Yes, we're right with you on that one. When we talk about fresh, speak to us a little bit about the freshness side, and they don't waste anything. That was the thing. I think we started cooking something with the pumpkin plant, and I couldn't believe that they used absolutely every part of the pumpkin, the flour, the root, the vegetables. So talk to us a little bit about the freshness side and just about their need to not want to waste anything.
Well, I think that's the number one thing about Vietnamese food is the freshness. And one of the reasons is everybody has their own garden. They have a community gardens. They have community rice paddies that they share in villages. The government has given them all so much land that they can harvest. That's theirs, and then the community goes together. So everything is fresh. They don't go to the supermarket. The bigger cities they have them, but they don't have supermarkets, so they don't have processed food. Even though I have to say that's coming in, and the children the young people are getting into that, unfortunately. But the freshness is there because they live right there and they cook it right there in their own house. They got the rice outside, and they harvest their spinach and their herbs. And they're selling it. Goes to the market. They're making the noodles in the morning, or the rice gets cooked in the morning. Off they go to the market, and it will be sold. That's a very natural thing. They don't understand that, and nothing gets left over. Everything gets eaten, and then they start all over again. And when they have dinner, there are about 6 or 8 dishes always around. You can't just have, like we do, spring rolls, and that's our dinner. No, there's a whole lot of vegetables and herbs. The herbs are incredibly important to Vietnamese cuisine. And, pho alone, you have flavors in there. This is unbelievable. So
it's always,
for them,
it's always, if I can just interject there, it's always amazed me because they have such in some ways, high vegetarian, but high carb diet, which, because of the noodles and because of the rice, etc. But they're so tiny. I go, I mean, what is in their rice and in their noodles that isn't in ours?
Well, I think it's the combination of, there's never just rice. It's always rice goes with vegetables, and you must have vegetables. I mean, the amount of vegetables the amount of greens that they're eating, that's what makes them really healthy. We don't eat that amount of greens. When you look at, the spinach and the herbs, there's a plate of green on the table. This is enormous. It's huge. And they're not eating like us, a whole big bowl of rice, even though they are. But it's mixed and it's slowly, and they're enjoying it. We are rushing. For them, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, that's an art form. You don't just swallow that and run, You're enjoying it. You're meeting your friends. Yes. You're talking to your family. Food is the most important thing for Vietnamese. That's it. I mean, there's nothing else but food. Money, we want to make money and make a living, but food is their priorities. And when they meet you, they will give you food. You must have food. You must take food. Food for them is an extension of who they are, and I think, and they're sharing it with us, and it's fabulous. It really is an amazing thing.
And it took me a while to grab that concept because, I have a very dear friend. She's Vietnamese, and I actually met her when she delivered a cooking class, and we just got on so well and have been friends for years. But it's kind of almost ritualistic, isn't it? It's celebrating. It's being respectful of the food, grateful for the food, and their appreciation of your company to enjoy it. And they slow down, as you say. They're not like us that are just gobbling food and shoving it down our throat. They do it meticulously. They do it very artfully almost. How they will set it up and they will bless the food and then eat it. And it really forced me to take a re-look at just what I do when I come home, when I'm back into the machine of cooking, as we do with a family or whatever. And I've sat at the table and I've said to people, like, just slow the heck down. We can enjoy this food and we should be more grateful for it that we have it. So I'm glad you brought that up. I think if I can just take you through, just so that we kind of wrap this up with some things for people to kind of take away from our chat. When we say people should definitely include a food tour in their planning, where would you say to start and finish, and what locations and maybe dishes they should try? There's a lot in that, isn't it? Geez, I asked a lot of questions.
I'll make it firm. You know me. I mean, first of all, Hanoi. You need to start in Hanoi. And the reason Hanoi is it. I mean, Hanoi has amazing food. And as I mentioned, you need to first of all, you need to have pho, which is the soup. You can have pho, whatever you want to call it, is an important part. It used to be in the olden days, it used to be that Vietnamese only would eat that in the morning, and it would only be available in the morning. That was their breakfast. And so, but because of the influx of the tourists and wanting more and more and more, now it's getting served 24 hours. I mean, you can have anywhere. And then you need to have that in order to try the soups down in the south, right, in order to see the difference. The other thing is there's bunja. Bunja is ground pork, and it comes with noodles, and it comes with special sauces, and it's just an experience to eat. It's just you might look at it and say, oh, that looks like a burger patty, but it is so much love and taste and flavor in these things, and how they're making, and it comes with very special spring rolls. So that's another dish that you need to try in Hanoi. The other one is chaka lavong, which is a fish dish. And there's a whole street dedicated. It's actually called Chaka Lavong in the Old Quarter, dedicated to that. And there's some restaurants there. Some of them are over 100 years old. And you don't have to order anything. You just sit down, and they'll bring you these cookers, and they bring you a big frying pan, and the thing is sizzling on it, and you start cooking it yourself and turning and twisting and dipping it here and adding the noodles. And it's fish in dill sauce. It's a very special fish. It's a white fish. It's very tasty. It's not a fatty fish. It's very, very... it's a very, very good fish, very tasty, and it comes in a dill sauce, and that's an amazing dish that a lot of people don't know about, and it's very, very important that people eat that. And of course, you want to have your first introduction to a banh mi, which is the baguette with various things, and you can have. There's one. The first word I learned was opla, and opla means eggs. And so if you in the morning walk around, you see these people with these baguettes selling you stuff, you just go opla, and they give you some eggs and amazing herbs and special sauces that they make. Everybody makes their own little sauce, and it's something to die for. So you start off in Hanoi with that, and then you make your way down to the middle part or to the southern part, and things start to change a little bit there. But again, go for the banh mi. One of the best banh mi's in the whole world is in Hoi An. There's nothing better than that. So yeah, you gotta have that.
You do. And once again, as you say, the baguettes, the bread that they make is just it is to die for.
It's incredible. It is to die. And one of the reasons is it's made with rice flour. There's a little bit of wheat flour. I had the pleasure of working in a bakery for a night, and it was quite interesting. None of them spoke any English, and my Vietnamese is, not non-existing. But it was amazing. I thought it was just flour, but it's rice flour mixed with a little bit of wheat flour, and it's just it's unbelievable. One more thing I like to add that people need to try in Hanoi, and that is an egg coffee. Vietnamese is very famous for their cafe, and you need to try any kind of coffee, and egg coffee, which is like a black coffee with it's a whipped egg on top, cream, which is like a sabayon. You know, when you whip up some warm eggs and with some wine, which is not in there, it's called a sabayon. So that is put on top onto the coffee. It's unbelievable. Forget the 5,000 calories, but it's fabulous.
Yes, I know. I'm one of these people that even when I order a juice, I say no sugar because I can get a bit sugared up over there. They do love their sugar.
Sugar is important to their diet. Yes.
So we finish off. We start Hanoi. We go to Hoi An. I think another thing that I've enjoyed, and I'm sure you have too, in Hoi An and Da Nang, is seafood and being able to eat just beautifully, freshly caught seafood when you're selecting it out of a bucket, pretty much, aren't you?
Yeah. No, they're great with their mussels, with their clams. They make fabulous things with clams. They just throw them on the barbecue, but they have a different system as we have on barbecue. They're making it steamy hot, and they're waving something around, so in order to put the heat to go right into it. And I mean, you will see a lot of men on the street that are actually barbecuing in front of their house and or selling it, and they're taking great pride in that. And there's a whole system system of how they're barbecuing or how they're fanning it and which way to do it. But the seafood, yes, it's fabulous. It's really, and
That
it's
is.
fresh. It's really fresh.
So
And
if we
tuna
put,
and everything.
so we do banh mi and definitely seafood in Hoi An, and
Absolutely.
then we head further down south, and we end up
if I may interrupt
Yeah.
for a second, there's Khao Lao in Hoi An.
Oh, how
which
do
are
we forget Khao Lao? Oh,
It's a very, very special dish. You're only going to
it
get it
is.
in Hoi An, so this is your chance. Where if you get it somewhere else, I can tell you it's not going to be the same. So
No.
there is a very special well in Hoi An that they're taking the water in order to
The
make
barley
these
well.
noodles.
Mm.
That's right, barley well, and it's very important. So the water
Is that true? Yeah, I thought that was a myth.
No, it's not a myth. Some of it are doing it. Some of it are taking the water. Some of them are not. But the myth is this is the water, and that's the only way these noodles are getting the right flavors. So they're cooking the noodles in there, and so it's a broth, and it has some herbs in it, and it's basil and all kinds of things, and it's just a very aromatic soup that with noodles and meat and very thin slices of it, and it's just to die for.
Because it too is about the broth, isn't it?
The broth is the most important thing.
And the crunchy pieces of pork. Oh,
yes.
I can't say enough about.
They know what to do with pork belly there. That's for sure.
Oh, they sure do. They absolutely do.
Yes.
So if we left Hoi An, where would we go to next? Do you think?
Well,
we go straight to Saigon.
You can go straight to Saigon, but if you want to have some really experience of that is completely different. Like every part that you go in the country is completely different. But there's Dalat, which is in the mountains. Dalat is where the rich Saigonese or the rich French used to go and build mansions in the mountains for the summer and just enjoying themselves in a nice cool temperature. And Dalat has beautiful, beautiful agriculture. They have a lot of silkworms where they make silk out of it. So you can watch them. You can eat silkworms there. You can eat silkworms anywhere. But if you were to eat silkworms, I would say suggest to have it in Dalat. With a little bit of garlic and white wine sauce. It's absolutely delicious. I know a lot of people don't believe in these things, but it is a delicacy. And they also believe in them, and they have crickets and all kinds of animals that they eat up there because let's remember the war. There was nothing to eat. So after the war, there was nothing. There was no rice planted, so they were starving. So they went and caught insects and all kinds of critters. And yes, they've been eating in the past cats, and yes, they're still eating dogs in some special areas, unfortunately. But we have to also understand their culture, and that I think it comes from them. And a lot of these old timers, especially men, like that kind of. But anyway, it's an interesting, it's a beautiful, by the way, it's a beautiful monastery up in Dalat, beautiful coffee country.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Strawberries, flowers, all the flowers from Vietnam are coming from Dalat. So it's very cool. Very good.
It's a beautiful place, and they have the everlasting flowers and strawberries the size of eggs. I've never seen such big strawberries. There's waterfalls.
They taste like strawberries.
Yes, you can actually taste them. Exactly.
Yeah.
So then would we go to I want to grab you before we finish up, because I know you've got a little bit to tell about Phu Qua, but I want to just grab from you in Saigon, what dish would you pick to make sure that you try?
Well, there you go again. You have to have seafood. In Saigon, you get the best frogs and the best seafood anywhere. I mean, I would highly suggest you go on a food tour with a motorbike. There's several tour companies. Can I mention my favorite tour company there, if I could? Is Vespa.
Sure.
Is Saigon Vespa Adventure that you can have in every town. But if you don't have time up north, I highly suggest Saigon to do it. It's an experience you will never forget. On the back of a motorbike at 6 o'clock at rush hour, you have about close to 9 million motorbikes out there, and all going home in one direction. And then people go and they stop in various places in order to have frog and crab and very delicate things. And the stuffed squid and things like that. Then you go to you drive around and you see the town, the city, and lit up, and it's just beautiful seeing the opera and everything. And then you go into a nightclub, but actually go into a bar. They're taking you to a place where you go some back alley, and you go through some people's houses, and you go upstairs, and you're up on some top floor,
rooftop,
and there's this jazz band playing, and it's just the most intimate, beautiful kind of music. There's no microphones; it's all organically done, and it's an experience of its own. And afterwards, you go to a nightclub, and there is something else. So it's Vietnamese like to dance. It's not looking; they all like to dance, and they love music. They're great musicians, and they're just having a good time. They're enjoying life so much more than we do in reality. Every day,
absolutely,
time for the family and the friends. Yeah, there's no weekend I'm going with my friends out. No, it's every day they are out and about. So highly recommend it. It's the highlight of my tour, and it's an experience you will never forget. And you will be able to eat things that you've never eaten before.
All right. Well, knowing how you and I we could be here for hours, but I'm trying to be aware of time. Can you just talk very quickly? I just want to finish up with a little bit about Phu Quoc, because not many people, it's kind of new to the tourism stage, I guess, and not a lot about it out there. But I know we talked about pepper, and we also talked about fish sauce. And I just thought very quickly you could tell the importance of that and just how it relates to Phu Quoc.
Well, you cannot make a meal without fish sauce in Vietnam. It's just, you may make coffee without it, but everything else has fish sauce. So this is sort of the umami of it is umami flavor that we all love in a way. A lot of people don't like the smell, but once it's in your food, it sort of dissipates. So it's that's what Phu Quoc is really, really famous for, is for the fish sauce. And it's in all the other parts of Vietnam, fish sauce is made with squid. This one is made with anchovies, and it really sets it apart from any other fish sauce that I've ever tasted. Personally, I like Red Boat fish sauce, which is amazing, and I realized it is now in a lot of different countries now, and finally able to export it. And it's really made a name of itself. But also, if you're down in Phu Quoc, which is a beautiful island with fabulous beaches, there are some parts where, the Sheraton and all those big conglomerates have appeared, but there's also jungle there that you can get lost in very easy. But if you're looking for seafood is it, I've never in my life seen prawns like this. They were like, some of them were like, 10, 12 inches long. I have not ever seen anything. They're humongous. They're like looking little crayfish, almost little lobsters. That's how big they are. So and
tasty?
Oh, fantastic. And in Vietnam they have this very special dipping sauce that you dip everything into it, and it's basically made from water, sugar, lime juice, and of course fish sauce and chili. And so you dip this in. It's unbelievable. But in Phu Quoc, because they have such fantastic pepper. It's one a very, very aromatic pepper. And unfortunately, I just ran out the other day, so I need to go back.
Yeah.
Fairly soon.
Oh, yeah, we definitely have to go back.
Yeah, absolutely. But what they're doing is they're taking the beautiful pepper, grind it up with a little bit of salt, and then they're mixing it in a little bit with lime juice. And that's where you dip your giant prawns in or shrimps. And you dip that and you eat it. Oh, my God. I'm salivating right now as I speak. But it's unforgettable, an unforgettable taste that it's just Vietnam. It's
It
you get
is.
stuck
Look,
on that.
Monica, look, this is definitely going to be an unforgettable episode because we've covered so much, and I'm so thrilled to have done it with you. Maybe I might kind of grab you for another episode down the track. We might even get you to talk about a recipe, maybe that people can try at home. Maybe we do something like that. What do you think?
Would love to do that. Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic. Okay, Monica, I'm going to have to say farewell. Thank you for your time, and I hope to be in Vietnam with you very soon.
Tomorrow?
Let's just say very soon.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Unpack.
Thank you for listening. Check out the episode notes for more information.
What about Vietnam?
Don't forget to subscribe, rate and review, and stay tuned for more fun adventures in Vietnam.
What about Vietnam?